𝗦𝗏𝗊 𝗠𝗵𝗵𝗺 𝗏𝗵𝗀𝗏𝗊 गिरिवरधारी ಗೋಪೀಜನವಲ್ಲಭ ಗಿರಿವರಧಾರಿ ಯಶೋದನಂದನ ವ್ರಜ ಜನರಂಜನ ಯಶೋದನಂದನ ಭಜ ಜನರಂಜನ ಯಮುನತೀರವನಚಾರಿ ಯಮುನತೀರವನಚಾರಿ जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन भज जनरंजन यमुनतीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 10th chapter, text number 46 to 48. So we will read, I will just read, well, we can read all of them. Nice. We'll read these 2 verses with no purport one time, and the 48th verse we will read several times. Yade tat punyam akyanam Vishnur viryo prabhimhitam kirtasyachadaya shutva karma pashe vimuchyate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. One who hears and chants this narration about the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is certainly liberated from material bondage without fail. Om Jnanatipanandasya Kinanjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatadine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Right. So I just stopped here. We'll read on because there's no purport. Just several verses here. Now Narada Muni is speaking about the Bhagavatam itself. First, the glorification of Prahlad Maharaj, and now the Bhagavatam itself. And so, here he says, one is liberated from material bondage without fail. Of course, in the Damodar Lila, when describing the glories of Shukadeva Goswami, describing the glories of Mother Yashoda, he says, Tat prapya vimuktidat, that the liberation, there is liberation mukti, and then there's vimukti, which means liberation beyond just leaving this material world and going to Brahman, which going to Vaikuntha. And then vimukti dat means the special liberation given by Krishna to his devotees who have achieved sthayi bhava, or their original relationship with him. So this mukti here for devotees of Krishna, Radha and Krishna, will not be so attractive. Just like Srila Prabhupada says in one purport that in Bhagavad Gita, that devotees are only interested in Krishna, not other forms like, we're interested, meaning we love to hear about those pastimes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in order to avoid the sahaja tendency, in the midst of speaking about, with Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar, about the most intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna, he then began to speak about Dhruva Maharaj. So just to always make sure that the devotees understand. And the last instruction, according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the last instruction that that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave was to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami came to Jagannath Puri just before that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared, and he spoke Upadeshamrita. And then, so actually, although Rupa Goswami writes it, it was actually spoken by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So even in the midst of all this ecstasy that he was feeling, he simply reminds us that anything related to Krishna, and not only anything, but a devotee sees everything related to Krishna, then one should never think that this part of Krishna consciousness is less than another. Still, Srila Prabhupada qualifies, even Prabodhananda Saraswati, he said, oh, this Govinda, yeah, he's all right. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when you compare to Govinda, he's not, he's all right. But Mahaprabhu, he's above everyone. So these are just different types of ecstasy that the devotees feel. Just like the gopis, when they saw Lord Vishnu, they were looking for Krishna, and one gopi spotted Krishna behind a bush. And Krishna noticed that she saw him, so he converted himself into Vishnu very quickly. And then they all came up and they said, have you seen Krishna? No. I mean, normally if you saw Vishnu, you would offer, we would be very happy. If we saw Lord Vishnu, we would offer dandavats and be covered with ecstasy. But the gopis are so absorbed in Krishna that Vishnu, yes, he's the Supreme Lord, but Krishna is so attractive. So anyway, so verse number 47. Etad yadari purushasya mrigendra lilam Daityena yuta pavadham prayata pateta Dejat majasya chasatam pravarasya punjam Shudvanubhavam akuto bhayameti lokam. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. Prahlad Maharaj was the best among exalted devotees. Anyone who with great attention hears this narration concerning the activities of Prahlad Maharaj, the killing of Hiranyakashipu, and the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nrsimhadev, surely reaches the spiritual world where there is no anxiety. And now we can repeat a few times. Everyone can repeat text 48. Not everyone, because then we would be here all morning, but some devotees. Yuyam niloke bata bhuribhaga lokam punana munayo biyanti Yesham grihana vasatiti sakshat Udam param brahma manushalingam Yuyam niloke bata bhuribhaga Lokam punana munayo biyanti Esham grihan avasatiti sakshat Gudham param brahma manushalingam
Yoyam triloke bata bhuribhaga
Yam niloke bata bhuribhaga Lokam punana munayo biyanti Yesham grihana vasatiti sakshat Gudham param brahma manushalingam Yuyam niloke bata bhuribhaga Lokam punana munayo biyanti Yesham grihana vasatiti sakshat Gudam param brahma manushalingam Yuyam niloke bata bhuribhaga Lokam punana munayo biyanti Yesham grihana vasatiti sakshat Gudam param brahma manushalingam Vaishnavi Yuyam niloke bata bhuribhaga Lokam punana munayo biyanti Yesham grihana vasatiti sakshat Gudam param brahma manushalingam Yam niloke bata bhuribhaga Lokam punana munayo biyanti Yesham grihana vasatiti sakshat Gudam param brahma manushalingam Yam niloke bata bhuribhaga Lokam punana munayo biyanti Gudam param brahma Yuyam, all of you, the Pandavas, Niloke, within this material world. Bhatta, however, Bhuribhaga, extremely fortunate. Lokam, all the planets. Punana, who can purify. Munaya, great saintly persons. Abhiyanti, almost always come to visit. Yesham, of whom? Grihan, the house. Avasati, resides in. Iti, thus. Sakshat, directly. Gudam, very confidential. Parambrahma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Manushalingam, appearing just like a human being. Narada Muni continued, my dear Maharaj Yudhishthira, all of you, the Pandavas, are extremely fortunate, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, lives in your palace just like a human being. Great saintly persons know this very well, therefore they constantly visit this house. Please, everyone can please repeat. Narada Muni continued. My dear Maharaj Yudhishthira, all of you, the Pandavas, are extremely fortunate. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, lives in your palace, just like a human being. Great saintly persons know this very well. Therefore, they constantly visit this house. Purport. After hearing about the activities of Prahlad Maharaj, a pure devotee should be very anxious to follow in his footsteps. But such a devotee might be disappointed, thinking that not every devotee can come to the standard of Prahlad Maharaj. This is the nature of a pure devotee. He always thinks himself to be the lowest, to be incompetent and unqualified. Thus, after hearing the narration of Prahlad Maharaj's activities, Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was on the same standard of devotional service as Prahlad, might have been thinking of his own humble position. Narada Muni, however, could understand Maharaj Yudhishthira's mind, and therefore he immediately encouraged him by saying that the Pandavas were not less fortunate. They were as good as Prahlad Maharaj, because although Lord Nrsimhadev appeared for Prahlad, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original form as Krishna was always living with the Pandavas. Although the Pandavas, because of the influence of Krishna's Yoga Maya, could not think of their fortunate position, every saintly person, including the great sage Narada, could understand it. And therefore they constantly visited Maharaj Yudhishthira. Any pure devotee who is constantly conscious of Krishna is naturally very fortunate. The word 𝗦𝗏𝗀𝗍, meaning within the material world, indicates that before the Pandavas there had been many, many devotees, such as the descendants of the Yadu dynasty and Vasishtha, Marichi, Kashyapa, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, who were all extremely fortunate. The Pandavas, however, were better than all of them because Krishna himself lived with them constantly. Narada Muni therefore specifically mentioned that within this material world, 𝗦𝗏𝗀𝗍, the Pandavas were the most fortunate. So when Bhishmadev was speaking to the Pandavas and specifically to Yudhishthira, so he said, Yam manye matuliyam, that you Pandavas, you really didn't understand Krishna. In the previous verse, he said, great personalities like Shiva and Brahma, they can understand, as mentioned here in the previous verse 47, Shuddha Anubhavam. Anubhava means the activities, that understanding, that bhava, that realization that comes from seeing Krishna's activities. But they could not understand why Krishna was doing what he was doing. No. They could not understand. But a devotee who is situated in the topmost platform of pure devotee, otherwise that they've realized their rasa and they are relating to Krishna according to that rasa, they can understand Krishna's intentions. No. They can understand Krishna's reason for doing things. No. Although they can't understand it completely. No one can understand completely. No. Because otherwise, Krishna would not be the greatest. But they can understand to a much greater degree. So the Pandavas were on that level. So therefore, Bhishma, first he mentions Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. They could understand what Krishna is doing. You couldn't understand it. Because you are feeling the depth of Krishna. Let's turn this thing off. You are understanding the depth of Krishna's pastimes. He's becoming subordinate to you as your cousin. And he was thinking of you as some of you as equals, some of you as greater than him, sometimes greater than him. No. And Priyam Mitram, you were thinking he was your very dear friend. And Suhritamam, you were seeing Krishna as someone who was your well-wisher. And you were seeing Krishna Akarod Sachivan, as your counselor, but not like a counselor like we have counselors, mentors, meaning, like the kings and royal persons, they have ministers. You were seeing Krishna like a minister, and Dutam, seeing him as your messenger. You sent him to speak with Duryodhana, you sent him to speak with Dhritarashtra. You did all these things, and Sori Dhat, as your well-wishing, intimate, beyond friend, just intimate associate. Ata Sarathim. And you saw him as your charioteer. He drove Arjuna. He also drove Yudhishthira. He also drove Bhima. So he was a chariot, not just Arjuna's chariot, he was charioteer of 3 of the Pandavas, the 3 principal ones. And so you couldn't, Bhishma is saying, he's saying it like you couldn't understand, but he's glorifying them. You couldn't understand because Krishna is allowing you to be so intimate with him. That's why you couldn't understand. Just like a child playing with his father. His father may be a great personality, a big lawyer or a doctor, but the son doesn't see him as a lawyer or a doctor. The son sees him as my father. And this is the effect of intimacy. Just like someone may be president of a country or prime minister, but their children will not see them as the prime minister. Even one time I was in Kolkata, and Prabhupada's daughter came to the temple. And so I spoke to her for some time, and she said, I'm so unfortunate. All of you are so fortunate. You could see the greatness of my father. And I said, no, you are the most fortunate. That you could associate with Srila Prabhupada in such an intimate way. You are more fortunate than we are. So she kept saying, no, you were most fortunate. I said, no, you're most fortunate. We exchanged that about 4 or 5 times. So it was very interesting to see that. And his son, Vrindavan, he was he lived in Mayapur for some time before he left this world. And he was, he said the same thing, that, I never realized. Of course, he came to the point where he actually became a full-time devotee. The only son or daughter that actually, got initiated and followed the process. He was the closest one. He could understand the greatness of Srila Prabhupada, and to some degree. But he said that I could never understand fully. So this is the intimacy that the Pandavas had, that they could, so great personalities, just like in describing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it says, Tirtaspadam Shiva Varninchi Nutam Sharanyam, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Tirtaspadam. He is the supreme shelter of everyone. And Shiva and Brahma, they're also shelters for so many people. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the shelter for them. Therefore, in the Bhagavatam it says that when someone is very fortunate, they take shelter of Krishna, who is Sharanam Sharanyam. He is the shelter of the shelter givers. Otherwise, someone may be a big personality in this world, but what are they compared to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The problem is sometimes they think they are, like Indra. Indra, in the 27th chapter of 10th canto, it mentions that actually Krishna chastised Indra, and he said that Indra, I had to take everything away, just like Yasyaham Anuguinami Harisvetaddanam Shanai. That when Krishna especially favors someone, he takes everything away. This is his special favor. I had one disciple, and he's from Jewish background, so Jewish people are famous for being very attached to money. And so he read that verse and he came, he left home, and he was knocking on my door, like 9:30 at night. And he said, I just read this verse. Is this going to happen to me? And I said, if Krishna allows this to happen to you, it will be for your benefit. So don't fear. Otherwise, you're surrendering to Krishna, right? Yes, but I wasn't planning on this. I was resisting a little bit. But later on, just a few years ago, he got some disease called Lou Gehrig disease, where your muscles just atrophy and they don't function anymore. And so then last time I spoke to him, I went to see him a few times. He couldn't travel. And he said, now I remember when I asked you about that verse, and now it has happened. Krishna has taken away everything, even I can't walk and I can barely talk, but I'm very happy. So you were right, that when it happens, I was able to assimilate it. I was able to understand. So that was I always say that because sometimes we may think that we're not making much, I'm not making much advancement. I've been chanting for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and I still sometimes I'm a little inattentive, or sometimes this happens, or sometimes some thoughts pop into my mind. So this devotee, he was very attached to his family, very attached to playing tennis and golf, but when the time came, because he was also very attached to reading the Bhagavatam, and when the time came, he was always expressing his fear, but when the time came, he actually took shelter of the holy name, and he became peaceful. So we should always be rest assured that Krishna, if we do our utmost best to serve Krishna in the best possible way, according to our ability and according to our understanding, that Krishna will take care of us. No. And if he has to take everything away, no, tado dhanam chajat yasya swajana dukkha dukhitam. This was also the mood that Bhishma was using in speaking about the Pandavas. The mood is that Krishna took everything away. Krishna takes everything away from an attached devotee to make them detached. But Krishna takes everything away from his topmost devotees, just like he did with Srila Prabhupada, just like he did with Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one sense, that he got one disease after another, all of his family members died, from cholera. And so Krishna does this to bring the devotees to a higher level of bhava, that they're already situated in prema. But to make that prema more intense, Krishna takes it away. And this, of course, Krishna does this daily with the gopis and the gopas, the cowherd boys and the gopis. Daily, he appears with them, and then daily he disappears. And for them, as we say in Shikshastika, this is like, Prabhupada says 12 years or more, but literally it means infinity. It appears to be an infinity, that yugaitam nimishena, that yugait means yugas. It appears to be like yugas. Not just 12 years or more, much more, it appears to be. And but then they become so attached to Krishna. So the Pandavas were so attached to Krishna. And Krishna revealed to Arjuna also, he revealed that you, Arjuna, what you're seeing, after he showed him the universal form, he said, what you're seeing here is not possible for the demigod. It's not possible for great saints. It's not possible, 𝗚𝗵𝗿𝗀, for students, people who study meticulously the Vedas, natapasa, nor for great yogis and great transcendentalists, nadanena, or those who give charity, 𝗦𝘄𝗺𝗺𝗀, or those who worship me very elaborately, that shakya evam vido drashtum. It's only possible to see me, drishtavan asimam yata, as you are seeing me here, bhaktya tvananyayo shakya, aham evam vido Arjuna. Oh Arjuna, it's only possible by undivided devotional service. This is the only way. You can't see Krishna in another way. And therefore, Krishna appears as Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Jagannath, Gaurnitai. But are we seeing him? Or are we seeing a facsimile? No. Like, if we're not fully surrendered, if we're not performing bhakti without any motivation, which is for the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, 𝗦𝗄𝗺𝗺𝗀. These two characteristics must be there so that bhakti can actually appear. There has to be no material interest, no secondary benefit. There will be secondary benefits. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitam Chanyat Yasuvaya Gragyam Jnanam Chayadahitukam. Yes, vairagya will appear. Real vairagya. Real vairagya is param dristvani vartate. It means you're getting something better, which we've all experienced. Sometimes we think, well, it's very difficult to, come to a higher stage of bhakti. And this principle, where is this greater taste, this higher taste? Well, we've all done it so many times. When we were children, we gave up one toy for a better toy. When we were young adults, we gave up the bicycle for a better means of transport. And of course, now it may be better. There's so much pollution that everybody goes back to bicycles. Or ox carts, even better. Then you don't need a factory to produce them. So, but we've all experienced this, but somehow or another, just like people sacrifice so much for their work, especially in Pune traffic or Bangalore traffic or Mumbai traffic, they have to spend hours to get to work and hours to come home. But they do all this tapasya for money. But when you speak about doing a little tapasya, get up early and chant the holy name, which is the source of all transcendental, it's very difficult. So somehow or another, when we put things in a spiritual context, it creates some sense of insecurity. So as long as we feel that sense of insecurity, then it will be very difficult to actually see Radha Vrindavan Chandra. We may see the deity, we may bow down, we may theoretically understand as Krishna. But if we really understand as Krishna, then we will surrender completely. When you really understand it, you will surrender completely, and you will be ready and willing to do anything and everything that Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas request of you. So are we on that platform? No. Just like chanting the holy name, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, in relation to Abhinatvam Namanamino, when you can actually see that there's no difference between the holy name and Krishna, you are a pure devotee, even if you're a neophyte. So we may think, how can you be a neophyte and a pure devotee at the same time? Well, there's one very good example in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When the Bengali poet came to Bhagavanacharya, and he said, I have this poem I want to read. I made this poem about Jagannath and about Chaitanya, and I want to reveal it to him. And the devotees had already heard it, and they were saying to Swarup Damodar, yeah, it's fantastic. We could, it's wonderful. And he said, no, Bhagavanacharya, you're just a sentimental cowherd boy. You don't understand these things. And so he refused, but then finally kept insisting. He said, all right, let me hear it. So he read the first 2 lines, and he said, stop. First 2 lines. Didn't even finish the first stanza, the first shloka. Because he said, oh my Lord, whose body is made of wood, and I worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the soul of that body. So Swarup Damodar said, you have committed 2 offenses. First you say that the Lord is material, and then you say that Lord Chaitanya is an ordinary jiva who lives in a body. And he chastised him like anything. But then he finally said, devotee may chastise, but they chastise to bring one to the point where they can actually hear. So he said, therefore, now if you take instruction under bona fide Vaishnavas, then you can write a poem about Jagannath. He said, yes, you are a poet. The Digvijay Pandit, he was a poet. He did, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to defeat his pride. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through Yoga Maya potency, made him make mistakes in his composition. And he couldn't even believe it. He complained to Saraswati. He said, my dear goddess, you promised me that anything that comes up from my lips, from my tongue, will be perfectly composed. And she said, what can I do? That Nimai Pandit is my master. Therefore, I cannot defeat him. I don't know what he did. but he didn't allow you. He didn't allow me to do what I usually do. So you should worship him. No. And so Krishna takes away the unnecessary things so that we can surrender. These devotees, so they can just surrender. But if we're very fortunate, he will take everything away. But when he takes everything away, the example is there in Srila Prabhupada, because when we think, well, he takes everything away, then how will I survive? But then Srila Prabhupada, by accepting Krishna's arrangement, Krishna gave everything to him. Everything. And Srila Prabhupada, even someone as great as Srila Prabhupada, by Yoga Maya potency, he was becoming disappointed. He was in anxiety. He was going to the steamship company every day to find out when will the next boat leave for India, thinking maybe I didn't understand. So one may think, how could Prabhupada not understand? No. Well, this is all Krishna's arrangement. He takes his pure devotees, puts them into difficulty, even puts them into doubt. No. He was doubting. Did I really understand? Did I make this trip? Were the residents of Vrindavan right that I should not have left Vrindavan? No. Maybe, he was... And then, on his way back from the company, he met the first devotees. And everything began. And still, he had to go through so many difficulties. So, all of this is just to illustrate to us, just like Narada Muni is saying to here, just like Queen Kunti. She said when Krishna was departing for Dwarka, she said, previously we had nothing, and you were always with us. Now we have everything and you're going away. Therefore, better not to have anything. No. Then you will always be depending on Krishna. No. Even Uddhava said that we, the Yadavas, we take Krishna for granted. No. Sometimes, just like it says here in the purport, that what would it say? Krishna lived with them constantly. So the Uddhava was thinking, we're taking granted. Maybe Kamsa is more fortunate than we are, because he was thinking of Krishna as something very great and powerful. And we're just thinking, well, I saw Krishna today, I'll see him tomorrow, just matter of fact. So this is the ecstasy of the devotee. The devotee always considers himself to be, as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, to be less fortunate. So he considers, Srila Prabhupada makes this analysis, that after hearing about Prahlad Maharaj, maybe Yudhishthira would think that how can I possibly achieve this platform of Prahlad Maharaj? When Narada Muni came to Prahlad Maharaj, after being instructed by Lord Shiva told him, Parvati mentioned that she is an expansion of Shri, the Supreme Goddess of Fortune. And then Lord Shiva began to glorify the service of the Goddess of Fortune. And then Lord Shiva told Nanda Gopakumar that beyond the Goddess of Fortune is Prahlad Maharaj. So Lord Shiva said, go see him immediately. And so he went to see Prahlad Maharaj. And what did Prahlad Maharaj say? I'm not a very good devotee. I only think of the Lord when I have problems. No. Just like I had a problem with my father, and I thought of the Lord, and then the Lord came. So what kind of devotion is this? No. Otherwise, if I wouldn't have had problems, I wouldn't have thought of him. No. He went on and on, you're glorifying my grandson, Bali Maharaj. Well, Bali Maharaj I'm always thinking, you're admitting my Maya. I'm attached to family, I'm attached to my grandson. And they may glorify him, but the Lord is keeping him captive. He won't let him out of Sutala. So Prahlad was lamenting. And then he said, but if you want to know a real devotee, then you must meet Hanuman. And so and then Hanuman, and they go glorify. And then finally you come to the Pandavas. But then the Pandavas, who were they compared to Uddhava, who was so dear to Krishna? And who was Uddhava? And then Uddhava said, whatever I am, when I saw the love of the gopis, then I realized that I have no love for Krishna. When Lord Brahma, in his prayers, he says that the residents of Vrindavan, he says the same thing as Uddhava, if I could just be a plant in Vrindavan, and I would get the dust of the lotus feet of all the residents of Vrindavan. But Uddhava was more specific. He said, I want to be a creeper or a plant or a tree and get the dust from the feet of the gopis, because their love is unparalleled. So this is the nature of a devotee, always glorifying other devotees. Even Srila Prabhupada, in one letter, he wrote in 1970 a letter to Hayagriva. And he said, thank you very much for your letter, but what you're saying is not true. You are speaking so many things about me, but actually I am a useless person. He said that. And he goes on and on. And he said, my Guru Maharaj gave me so many instructions, but I was reluctant to carry it out. I waited for so long, but he forced me. Therefore, just try to understand the nature of devotional service, chanting the holy name, and great personalities like my Guru Maharaj, who has revealed everything. Don't waste your time with this useless person. Listen, Prabhupada speaking to his disciple. He was revealing the sentiment of a pure devotee. He was feeling that way. Not that he was thinking, well, let me make them think that I'm humble. We may do that. We may say, let me show everyone how proud I am of my humility. So this is, and even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he showed this same tendency. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he was with Swarup Damodar, and this is the second chapter of Madhya Lila. And he said, you see me enacting all these sentiments of devotion, but it's all a show. It's just a show. Because if I had real love for Krishna, then why am I sustaining my life in this world? He said, therefore you should understand these are all theatrics. Just playing, just pretending. Because if you find a small black spot on a white sheet, it ruins the whole sheet. So even though it looks like I have such great devotion, I'm maintaining myself in this material world. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing us, what is the sentiment of a devotee? A devotee is always thinking, I need to do more for Krishna. I have to do more for Krishna. I must surrender more to Krishna. This is the sentiment of a devotee. And that way, so this is very nicely brought out in Srila Prabhupada, by Srila Prabhupada in this purport. And then of course Srila Prabhupada mentions, as we've already discussed, how that the Pandavas, and especially Arjuna, was totally under the sway of Yoga Maya. No way. Parikshit Maharaj, he was guided by Yoga Maya to put a snake around the neck of Samkhya Muni. So Yoga Maya, is acting in such a way. But we should not think, in the same way, Yoga Maya is making me think that I'm, not surrendered. No, that is Mahamaya. She's revealing to us that we're not surrendered. No, and Yogamaya makes us think we're not surrendered, but Mahamaya reveals to us that we're not surrendered. But because if we were surrendered, then we would not be able to walk out of this temple very easily. We would see the deities. And like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could not separate himself from Jagannath. Sometimes he would stay for 2 or 3 hours, just drinking the beauty of Jagannath and meditating on his activities. Do we do that when we see the deities? No. We're like, okay, I did that, now what's next? No. And so so far we have to go to come to the standard of pure devotional service. But we have one very special advantage. We have the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We have the mercy of the Parampara. We have the mercy of all the Purvacharyas. We have the mercy of so many great devotees. And if we just take advantage of that and never become frustrated and exhibit patience, as Rupa Goswami said, no, Utsahan Nishtaya Dhairyat. These 3 things, elementary things. You must have enthusiasm, which comes from associating with the devotees. You must have faith, dhairya, and determination. When you have faith, then you become determined in Krishna consciousness. And then you must have nishchaya dhairya. You must have patience. Let it manifest. And if it hasn't manifested, then Krishna is indicating to me, I must try harder. No, not that, if it hasn't manifested, that means sometimes even we can think that my Maya is very special. No, the false ego is so strong. Yes, my Maya is a special Maya. No, that therefore I'm not surrendering, because otherwise my circumstance is so great that I'm justified by not surrendering. No, my circumstances. So we're lamenting about ourselves. And even someone who's on the Brahman platform, Brahmabhuta Pasanatmana Shochati Nashkankshati, they don't lament. And so therefore, if we lament, we can understand what is my platform. No. I'm still on the theoretical Brahminical platform, not even on the pure Brahman platform, which is just neutrality, not even rasa. But by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I will conclude with this, one time Srila Prabhupada, one devotee, he was explaining, and this is in the very beginning, he was explaining the 4 regulative principles. You know, devotees, practically no one was following. So he said, and one devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, that appears impossible. No, he heard the 4 principles. And then Srila Prabhupada said, yes, it is impossible. And the devotee, oh, okay. 2.5, no, maybe 3 or 1.5 principles. No, Prabhupada's authorizing it. He said, but by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the impossible has become possible. No, oh, have to follow. No, so anyway, just the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gives us this opportunity to, even whatever condition we're in, if we just take advantage of this wonderful movement of Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then our perfection and our success is assured. These are some thoughts on this verse, these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll stop here. Any comment or question?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. It was very wonderful to hear you speak on this. And Maharaj, I was reading in one of the purports of Prabhupada, about which I want to clarify with you whether my understanding is correct. he says that Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Brishto Vijayate, one who is a devotee who with material desires, he goes to heaven and then he comes back to earth, born in the family of pious Brahmins or in aristocratic families. Prabhupada says, one who is put in a forlorn situation, he is more fortunate than this category of Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, he says. Because somebody like Bharat Maharaj put in a forlorn situation, is able to call upon the Lord and depend on the Lord more. So here you were telling today about Yasyaham Anagrihanami Harishe Daddanam Shane. He also comes in the same category as the forlorn situation, is it?
Yeah. So, yes, that's what it means. It means that he's inviting us to come to a higher platform of bhakti. Just like when Srila Prabhupada explained that Paritranaya sadhunam, he said, why does the sadhu need to be delivered? Because he's already a sadhu. And then Prabhupada says that Krishna is delivering him to a higher platform of bhakti. And that is, so this putting us into difficulty is extreme mercy of Krishna. And we have to see it that way. Of course, the famous verse, Te nukampam susamikshimana. Srila Prabhupada says, sumikshimana means patiently awaiting. Because you know that everything is anukampa. It is the extreme mercy of the Lord. The Lord wants you, Lord Ramachandra said, that when someone actually decides to surrender to me, from that day, I will protect you. So Krishna is protecting us. If we're doing our best to surrender to Him, and we can understand that protection, just like people protect their children sometimes by chastising them. Now the child may not realize that, but so we have to be assured that Krishna, He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and He's giving us this opportunity to approach Him in His original form, which was mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, that the Pandavas could see Krishna in their original form, not like Prahlad Maharaj, who saw Lord Nrsingadeva in expansion. The Pandavas were seeing Krishna, and He's living in their palace. So Srila Prabhupada said that this is great fortune, and we have to always remember that one time Srila Prabhupada speaking about the Christian prayer, give us this day our daily bread. Prabhupada said, this is pious, it is pious, but he said it is not very advanced. Prabhupada said, if a child asks his parents, will you feed me today? Is this very advanced? No. Do they doubt that their parents would feed them? No. So, should we doubt that Krishna is putting us in some circumstance that is not favorable for us? Otherwise, what is the degree of our faith? So, difficulty, Queen Kunti says, give me more. No. We say, give me less. No. But whatever He gives us, we accept it. And whatever favorable, just like Srila Prabhupada explains in 256 in the purport, he says if a devotee has difficult situation, he thinks, I should have had more difficulty. And if a devotee has a favorable material situation, he thinks, Krishna is giving me facility to do more service. Everything means more service. Everything means more surrender. Whether you get a lot or whether everything's taken away. Even I had that experience. When I read Bhagavad Gita, and I got a japa from the devotees, and then I came back one day, and I had this rented house. Everything was gone, except for my books. Someone stole everything, furniture, everything. They only left the books, one pot, and some spices, and some vegetables. No. So I had enough to make prasada. So I realized that, that, wow, this is my life. This is what Krishna wants me to do, because everything else is gone. No. And I asked the neighbor what happened. They said, well, someone drove up in a moving truck. We thought you were moving. No, these thieves were very expert. No, they had a van, a moving van, and they come up, move everything out, and people think, oh, he's moving away. No. So, anyway, I moved on to Krishna consciousness. Krishna does it. Yes. Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a very wonderful class yesterday and today morning. Many times we hear Prabhupada quotation, chant and be happy, chant and be happy. Although I'm trying to chant attentively as much as possible, but the second part, be happy, what does that mean? Because I'm chanting from 10 years now, but that happiness is not coming in chanting. Hare Krishna. Please help, Maharaj.
Yeah. Prabhupada says this for people who are beginners. No. Just chant and be happy. No. It's either beginners or pure devotees, one or the other. No. Just like it says that only people who are insane or people who are pure devotees don't suffer. No, everyone else suffers. So, chant and be happy, it's like, sometimes I've had devotees, they come and I say, what can I do? They say, well, you can do Sankirtan. Well, that's very difficult. No. Well, you can cook. I don't know how to cook. Well, you can worship the deity. Oh, I've never been trained to do that. Well, then just chant and be happy. Thank you for your mercy. No, so it's like something that Srila Prabhupada said, if you chant, you will be happy. The part that he didn't include in there was if you learn how to chant properly. No. If you chant with the mood of Shikshastika, which is why we repeat Shikshastika every day, so that we understand how I will be happy by doing all this, especially verse 3 and 4 and 5, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur said is sambandha. If you can achieve these 3 verses, then you achieve the perfection of sambandha. You actually understand, I am an atom at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then you can start to be happy. Then tears will come from the eyes. So that's a sign of real happiness. And so, yes, that means that we chant, but how are we chanting? If we're really chanting, then happiness will come. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Raj. Thank you for class. So I have this question related to when you were speaking about how real renunciation is having a higher taste. So what happens in like the stage of anartha nivritti when the devotee might not feel so much higher taste, it's more struggle. So at that point, is there inspiration to continue forward? Is it more based on like the faith and hope that they will be able to?
Well, we have to understand that anartha nivritti means the success in anartha nivritti is when you can overcome the obstacle that made you take a body, another body. Otherwise, anartha nivritti is there because we have all these attachments from previous lives. And generally, especially someone who was a devotee in the previous lifetime, some kind of devotee, there's something that didn't allow them to go on. And therefore, in this lifetime, we should understand that there will be some obstacle. And what is the nature of that obstacle? It's something that I have not been able to overcome, something that I've not been able to confront and put behind me. And so, but anartha nivritti also, it's not like anartha nivritti, you achieve it and then you go to nishta. It's like a rainbow. First, bhajana kriya, you take shelter, and by taking that shelter of the spiritual master and associating with the Vaishnavas, then you begin an artanivritti because it's revealed to you what I'm doing wrong and what I need to do right. And then you enter into that stage and you develop, if you're successful and you're determined, then you start to develop nishta. But an artanivritti is still going on. And even bhajana kriya is still going on. You're getting instructions, you're getting further instructions. Then you have a little attraction. Then you start to have attraction, and your nishta, your faith, your nishta becomes stronger, and an artanivritti becomes weaker. But if we're not careful, even the stage of bhava, just like the example is there with Bharat Maharaj, some attachment, some little anartha that's still, hanging in there. And therefore we have to always maintain ourselves in the association of devotees. So that if there's anything lingering, then we should not become distracted by it. And we do that by hearing, chanting, associating, and surrendering to service. And then when you're in Krishna prema, then there's no more anartanivritti. But otherwise, there may be traces. Just like it's not that someone is a Kanishta-adhikari, then all of a sudden the next day I'm a Madhyama-adhikari. And no, you're Kanishta, and then you get some Madhyam qualities if you're advancing. And then at some point you have more Madhyam qualities than Kanishta. And you may even have one or two Uttam qualities. And then you'll be mostly almost all Madhyam, maybe a few Kanishta tendencies. Just like those eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya who were acting like, of course this was Yogamaya, but they were acting like Kanishta adhikaris. They couldn't understand the poem that this, until Swarup Damodar revealed it to them. So Srila Prabhupada said they were actually Kanishta. They had full faith in Krishna, but no, they couldn't understand certain aspects of devotional service. So then you come to the Uttamari platform, you still have some Madhyam tendencies. And then when you get to the stage of prema, then all of that is gone. So it's like that, just transition. Not like, yesterday I was a Kanishta adhikari. Today I'm Madhyam. You'll have a little celebration, and Madhyam ribbon cutting. No, not like that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Manav, for a very wonderful class, and your explanation of how one can be neophyte and still be a pure devotee, quoting Bhagwan Acharya's example was very wonderful. First time I could connect. Is not audible?
There's a lot of echo, and especially with my hearing problem, I can't.
Hare. Still there's some echo. Your example of Bhagwan Acharya and Swarup Damodar Goswami was very good and wonderful, explaining the concept how one can be a neophyte, but they had firm faith into the holy name of the Krishna being non-different from Krishna and being pure devotee. So Maharaj, you were mentioning about bhakti is ahetukena pratyata bhakti. At the same time, usually the people who take to bhakti are often artho, artharthi or jigyasu. So we come with this, motive of some distress or looking for some facility or looking for some knowledge. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, then these tendencies may still be there, but they get covered by Krishna conscious thing. Like we may want something in Krishna consciousness, we may want Krishna conscious knowledge, and we may want some freedom from suffering. And that pure aspect of bhakti, like what you told about attraction for deities, for several hours. Those kind of pure attraction may not be there. So how do we really detect it? That is first thing. And how do we really move on from these tendencies which look like pure when we are practicing bhakti, but they're actually obstacles in that sense?
Yes, this tendency to vacillate between bhakti and niskama karma yoga. Niskama karma yoga is very similar to bhakti, but the difference is that I want something. I want something which is within the realm of Krishna consciousness, but I want it instead of surrendering. Bhakti descends and niskama karma yoga ascends, in the sense that I want to do it this way. So there's nothing wrong with that. The whole Bhagavad Gita, most of it is recommending niskama karma yoga. And some places, then bhakti is finally emphasized in the 9th chapter, and here and there. But it's really based on the fact that we have a certain nature, and by offering everything, that nature will cause us to want to do something in a certain way. But then we come to the end where Krishna says, no, you should give up all these tendencies and surrender to me. So surrender to me means to do what I say. And those elements of pure bhakti should become prominent. So it's nothing bad, but that's why the Bhagavatam reveals more clearly the nature of bhakti. And we see, just like we're talking about, we see one situation after another where a devotee is put into distress. One after another. Practically, you look at all the stories in the Bhagavatam, of devotees, they're always put into distress, of some kind of distress or another that brings them to the platform. Dhruva Maharaj, he was distressed. And he went out and he started meditating, and his meditation created a difficulty. He was chanting the mantra and everything, but he still had a desire in his mind. And then the Lord appeared, and that desire vanished, went away. So there's, the Bhagavatam makes it more clear that we have some desire to do something in a certain way. There's nothing wrong with that. But we have to come to the point of full surrender, where I just will do what Krishna wants me to do. But if we try to do that when we still have some attachment for something, then it may create psychological disturbance. And therefore, that means we're still on the platform of Gita. But when we get on the platform of Bhagavatam, then, and especially we get in the platform of the 10th canto, where everyone is just surrendered to Krishna. And Mother Yashoda is doing what she wants to do, but that's because it's sthayi bhava bhakti. It is, she can't do anything else. She can't, she can't go at night and meet Krishna as a lover. She must be Krishna's mother, and the gopis must be Krishna's lovers, and the cowherd boys must be Krishna's friends. The only thing that in the other rasas they do realize about Madhurya rasa is that everyone realizes ultimately it's supreme, and everyone ultimately realizes that the bhakti of Srimati Radharani is supreme. Ultimately, everybody realizes that. But they forget it. Because otherwise, everybody would just be aspiring, let us all become like Radharani. But we, by Lord Chaitanya's, influence, we meditate, Ramya Kachid, that we think the Brajabadhu, that this upasana, Brajabadhu, that this this worship of the gopis is supreme. Not being a gopi, but this degree of surrender that I will do anything for Krishna. And it doesn't matter what happens to me. It doesn't matter what the consequences are. Whatever Krishna desires, I will do that. And this is the essence of the eighth sloka of Shikshastika. And so we want to come. There's the goal. But if we try to achieve that artificially or too quickly, then, that's why Krishna says it's a gradual process. Srila Prabhupada said it's a gradual process. So we see the goal, and then we can understand, okay, I haven't reached that yet, but I can't do it artificially. So that way, if we're aspiring for something, let me aspire for it in the purest way. I want to do this for Krishna, then let me do it with full surrender. And then we'll come to the point where whatever Krishna says, whatever he wants. And that's Srila Prabhupada. He was translating books, he was distributing books, and total devastation, financial devastation. He was, put into difficulty. He had all success, and he would just do what Krishna wanted. And that's when he wrote his famous letter to Satsvarup Maharaj, who said, Prabhupada, I'm a preacher, I'm not so interested in these managerial things. And Prabhupada said that surrender means you do as I am doing. Sometimes I'm preaching, sometimes I'm going to the bank. And so Prabhupada just revealed that what does full surrender mean, especially within the Sankirtan movement. We are within the Sankirtan movement. And therefore sometimes we have to do things, even if one is trying to practice Raganuga Bhakti. Part of Raganuga is to do what Krishna wants. That's what Raganuga means. I will do what Krishna wants. Sometimes even a devotee on the highest platform has to do something that may appear to be very elemental. But we do it with enthusiasm. And then we'll keep advancing. Hare Krishna. So it's getting a little late, but one more question maybe. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. In this purport, second paragraph, Prabhupada says that the pure devotees who are constantly conscious of Krishna are very fortunate. But again, Prabhupada brings out one thing that, but because Narad Muni was saying that Yudhishthira Maharaj was constantly, Krishna was constantly staying with Pandavas, they are more fortunate. So I was kind of thinking that here, like Vapu is more glorified than kind of the separation part. But in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we have this Vipralamba Bhav, where gopis who have been separated from Krishna from past, for 100 years or so, they are like more fortunate than the residents of Dwarka Vasis or Mathura Vasis. So in this purport, it is like more of Vapu is glorified. So same thing happens in our lives when, some devotees say that, Guru, somebody who is serving Guru very intimately, closely, they are more fortunate. Some say that, no, you are staying in separately. So, far off, you are more fortunate. So there is always a tug of war of glorification of who is greater. Could you kindly elucidate and clarify, who is fortunate?
Just like in Damodar Astakam, idam te vapur nata gopala bala. I just want to see this image. So Sanatana Goswami explains that because when Nanda Gopakumar arrives in Tapaloka, then the Kumaras explained to him that, no, actually meditation is greater then actually you want to see the Lord, but meditation is greater. But it's explained there that no, actually, because this is his meditation. I want to see the Lord. No. So the devotees will think, let us go to the palace. No. So when they think like that, that may be more intense than actually going to the palace. So always it's considered that the separation is more intense than the vipralambha is more intense than sambhoga. No. But with the spiritual master, Vani is more important because the spiritual master's function, that relationship, is a relationship of instruction. These relationships of the they're in the highest platform of rasa. So when they're separated from Krishna, it's so intense. But also when they're with Krishna, it's so intense. So you can't really say one is greater than the other, although always separation will create a greater mood, a more intense meditation. Because you're hankering so much for that association. But then there's always that the vaichitya, which is that when you're with the person, you're in anxiety that you will be separated. No. So that also creates a very strong, powerful, that's separation in union, which is considered to be prema vaichitya, the highest form of prema. Because you're with them, but you're in anxiety that will be over with. Just like if you're eating something you really like, you know that in any moment I'll get full. No? So we experience that on the lowest level. So, both are intense, but it's always considered that vipralambha is more intense. But it doesn't mean that it's necessarily better, because you're hankering for sambhoga. So when you get to sambhoga, you also feel very intense satisfaction. But definitely Vani is more important than Bapu in the sense of the spiritual master. And that just like Puru, he accepted his Yayati's old age, but he said, I'm very sad that I did not anticipate that. I should have understood without having to be told. So this shows the nature of when you're in a subordinate position of being instructed, you should actually try to understand. Just like we chant the Gayatri mantra, the Guru Gayatri, we're saying that, I want to understand. Let me understand. Don't make the spiritual master have to speak. Let me understand his desire. Of course, that doesn't mean I speculate. No, you must understand by experience. So that's the nature of Vani. Vani is, in that relationship, is much more. But we hanker for Bapu. It's natural that even though you're getting Vani, you're not saying, well, I don't need Bapu. But when Srila Prabhupada, one time he was in the airport, and he said, so where is Tripurari? And one devotee said, he's distributing books. And Prabhupada said, he has understood. Instead of being there with Prabhupada, he was distributing books. So Vani means I'm hankering for Bapu. And when you get Bapu, you should be hankering for Vani. Not just sit there, oh, Gurudev. No, you say, Prabhupada explained the perfection of Bapu in his last letter to Srila Prabhupada. How can I serve you? So when I get the Bapu, that should be my mood. How can I serve? I want some instruction. I want to know how to do my service better. Hare Krishna. Jai.
be happy if I inquire. So thank you. I have no words to thank you, Maharaj, for your enlightenment today and yesterday with Prabhupada's special anecdotes, especially about his daughter today, what you told. This was very heart-touching to hear, and Srila Prabhupada's anecdotes. My question is about, you mentioned towards the end that we are trying to practice this, which is a gradual, long process, which will need utsaha, nishchaya and dhairya. And while explaining that, you made a very amazing statement, which I want to understand, is that sometimes we are on the theoretical Brahmanical platform and we lament. And that goes to show that we are not even neutral, what to speak of going in positive direction. So being a teacher and study and teach, so more or less it's all theoretical only. So I want to understand what is this more about this theoretical platform to actually go beyond that. So can you please help Maharaj?
Sankirtan. In Sankirtan, you definitely go beyond the theoretical platform. The theoretical platform, we can sit here in a class and we can understand concepts. But when you do service, therefore Srila Prabhupada said, Tadvidi pranipatena. First you be submissive, then sevaya, then you do service. Then you will understand what questions to ask. He said, otherwise you will simply waste the time of the spiritual master. So theoretical, theoretical is important, but jnanam vijnana sahitam. If there's no bigyan, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur compared it to being a mental ass. It's like a physical ass, 4 legs, he carries a big load. And if we get a lot of theoretical knowledge and we can't put it into practice, we become a mental ass. I'm just carrying around this big load in my head of information, which ultimately will mostly likely make me proud. Let me show everyone what I know. So we have to immediately take what I know and put it into practice. And then, without even thinking about others will be inspired. If we actually have bigyan, this is the way to instruct, the best way to instruct other devotees. Not by giving them theoretical information, but showing them how to surrender. This is the best instruction we can give. And this is what Srila Prabhupada did. In the beginning of the movement, devotees didn't even understand what Srila Prabhupada was talking about. But when they saw his surrender, they understood the nature of bhakti. How Srila Prabhupada would serve them. Here's this old, refined, ultra-cultured person who's cooking for us. And they finally, penetrated their thick ignorance, this covering of ignorance, to let me get a good meal from the Swami, to actually, he is the most enlightened personality on the planet. And by my great fortune, I'm here. It took some time, but it was ultimately the surrender. So when we see association with devotees, that's what it means. We hear, we chant, and we see their surrender. Even competition in Sankirtan, that's what it's meant for, to enliven other devotees, not to be number one. But I want to be number one, just like the gopis in Vrindavan. They want to excel other gopis in service so that the other gopis will be enlivened to increase their service. They're enlivened by seeing someone doing greater service, to do greater service for Krishna for his pleasure. And also that will enliven all the other gopis to do more service. So everything is based on pleasing Krishna. And then it becomes pure. Even excelling and going beyond others becomes pure when we do it with the idea of service. I'm doing more so that everyone else will do more. But if I'm doing more so that everyone will, just when I get back, they will say, oh, he did so many books, and so wonderful. Yeah, they finally realized who I am, and we have to avoid that. The tendency is there, because I mentioned yesterday, fame is a quality of Krishna, so it's also found in us. So we should become famous for our surrender, and not bathe in that fame, but use it to inspire others, to serve others, because we're servants. Hare Krishna. So I think we'll have to stop here.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So in the last 3-4 days, we had very wonderful association of Maharaj. Prabhupada writes, progress in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower, he says. So I was very strongly feeling that Maharaj is building our spiritual muscles, I feel, through his lectures and the enlightening examples and answering questions of so many devotees. Brilliant answers. And I think this is one thing that makes the devotee spiritual life very long-lasting and tenacious and stable and strong. Without the right attitude, externally performing activity is very easy, but we will not be able to go a long distance. We would collapse after a while. So I'm very grateful to Maharaj for this gift that he gave us in the last several days. All through the Srimad Bhagavatam, whether it is Dhruva Maharaj's prayer or Nimi Maharaj's prayer, Prahlad Maharaj's prayer, everywhere we find what is most cherished is not Svargaloka or Satyaloka or even even 𝗚𝗵𝗿𝗀 also. Beyond that, the most cherished thing by all the Vaishnavas, greatest of the Vaishnavas, is a good association. So I felt that we could very peacefully sit down and listen to Maharaj and learn many things in the last 2-3 days. And we are also looking forward to having Maharaj again in Pune very soon as possible. So let us thank Maharaj with loud Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. His Holiness Guru Prasad Swami Maharaj ki,
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Mancha kalpatarubhyasya upasandubhya vijapatanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.